following is a CUNY TV special presentation.
Now it is my honor and a pleasure to welcome New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. As all of you know, he started his career in elected office as an assemblyman for the Manhattan's West Side in 1992 and was elected Manhattan Borough President in 2005. Since taking his first citywide post just a year ago, Scott has introduced ethics reform for the city's $160 billion pension system and issued deep dive analysis on some of the most pressing issues facing our city. Scott has been a strong and smart, dedicated advocate for New York City and our residents, and he has shown invaluable commitment to ensuring that New York's economy continues to grow and to thrive. Throughout his career, Scott has made transportation and infrastructure investments a hallmark of his work, and he's fought tirelessly for safer, cleaner, fairer city through smart development, educational opportunities, and job and economic growth across the 5 boroughs. Scott, welcome back to ABNY. We are eager to hear your update on your work as City Comptroller and your vision for the future of New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. Okay, good luck. You got the water? This is mine.
You can take that. Well, good morning, and thank you, Bill, for that great introduction. And I also want to thank Jen Hensley for gathering us here this morning. I also see so many friends from different walks of life, from business, from labor, from government, and I cannot believe all of you are here today, and all of you had to be at ABNY. Okay. But, you know, if you think about it, that's always been the genius of ABNY ever since its founding in 1971. This organization has always been the great convener. It's been that way ever since Lou Rudin and Robert Tisch hosted that first breakfast meeting to confront the fiscal crisis in the 1970s. They literally helped New York from the brink of fiscal collapse. And I do remember those days. I grew up in Washington Heights in the 70s. I remember when the A train was a rolling crime scene, and we all felt that the city was teetering on the edge. 40 years later, we as a city have climbed our way to recovery, and ABNY is a big reason why we made it so far. Let's give Bill Rudin a big, big round of applause. Each of us is drawn here by one truth. We all love this town. And in one way, our mission is the same. Like ABNY, the Comptroller's Office takes the long view on the city's economic health. We also watch the bottom line. And we demand value and performance from government in order to boost economic opportunity for all New Yorkers. In 2014, that's exactly what we did. We took seriously all of our charter-mandated duties. But we also reimagined the Office of Comptroller and elevated it to a place where it has made a real difference in the lives of New Yorkers. So I wanted to come here this morning to tell you how we've raised the capacity of our office and how we'll continue to fight for accountability, transparency, and opportunity. I knew from day one that protecting the retirement security of over 700,000 active and retired employees is one of the most profound responsibilities of our office. They're the teachers, the cops, the nurses who safeguard this city. And you can be sure that I'm going to continue to safeguard their futures. So that's why we launched a sweeping ethics reform of our pension system, the 4th largest in the nation. Under the leadership of our new Chief Investment Officer, he's here today, Scott Evans, we banned placement agents, those middlemen who got paid big bucks for doing little work. We've hired the first ever Chief Risk Officer and the first ever Chief Compliance Officer at the Bureau of Asset Management. If the financial crisis taught us anything, It's that those charged with keeping us on the straight and narrow must have a direct line to the top, and these officials in my office will have a direct line to me. With these reforms, we've sent a clear message. Just as we hold investment managers to the highest ethical standards, we're demanding the same from ourselves. It's also our job to free up funds for essential programs. We've already saved the city $1.2 billion, that's billion with a B, by aggressively taking advantage of low interest rates and working with the administration to refinance our debt. That's real money that can be invested to build up our schools, parks, and hospitals. At the same time, when it comes to accounting, we're paying attention to the rules and making sure that they're applied to our city budget. That means telling taxpayers precisely how we're paying for the operations of our city with maximum disclosure and accountability. We're also using our audit power to tackle some of our city's most stubborn management failures. We are pulling back the curtain on the New York City Housing Authority. NYCHD is the largest single source of affordable housing in New York City. And yet, for too long, the agency has lived in the shadows, and too many residents have lived with mold, cracked windows, and busted doors. It's appalling what we found in a recent audit. NYCHD lost $700 million because it botched federal funding applications. That money could have gone to new boilers, new lighting, and desperately needed safety measures. This dysfunction must stop now. We're also using every tool at our disposal to fuel our local economy and to spur growth in every neighborhood. Investing in minority and women-owned firms is critical to our success. New York City spends $18 billion a year on goods and services, but less than 4% of that money goes to women and minority-owned firms. That's not just wrong, it's bad economic policy. These companies are engines of employment, and they're more likely to hire locally. In Brooklyn, Park Avenue Building and Roofing was once a small family hardware store. Today, it has grown into a booming 90,000 square foot warehouse on Atlantic Avenue in Brownsville. They're a certified MWBE, and they've helped to build everything from schools and hospitals to our new police academy. They employ over 70 workers, the majority whom are African American and Latino. That's how you lift up neighborhoods, and that's how you increase competition and lower prices for all taxpayers. Government needs to lead by example by harnessing our purchasing power to boost companies like this. It's one reason I decided to grade agencies last year, to see how well they're complying with laws that require them to engage NWBEs. I got to tell you, the results were not pretty. No agency got an A, the average grade was a D, and anyone who thinks that this was somehow political on my part, we graded the Comptroller's office, and we got a C. Clearly, everyone needs to step up and do better. I've started by appointing the Comptroller's first ever Chief Diversity Officer, Carol Wallace. Give her a round of applause. She's right here. Her mandate is to improve these grades across the board. Because think about it, folks, when it comes to diversity and economic opportunity, New York can and must be a model for the rest of the nation. Kara's going to get that done. We're also playing a national leadership role on corporate governance. Our pension funds have a long, proud history of demanding performance and integrity. But when it comes to the most serious challenges facing long-term investors, we need to take our efforts to the next level. Fundamental change has to start in the boardroom, because that's where major corporate decisions are made. Yet for too long, the election of corporate directors has been a stacked deck. They're not elections, they're coronations. Boss Tweed never had it this good. In recent years, weak and conflicted boards have failed to prevent everything from accounting fraud at Enron to the excessive risk-taking that led to the financial crisis. So if we've launched a national campaign to open up America's corporate boardrooms. We're leading a coalition of pension funds from California, Connecticut, Illinois, and beyond. We call it the Boardroom Accountability Project. And we're demanding that 75 major companies give long-term shareholders the right to nominate independent candidates to hold real elections. Now, we're already seeing results. This month, the SEC stopped granting cover to companies that try to game the system by advancing their own phony reforms that exclude ours. It was a critical win for investors. And today, I'm announcing a major victory. One of the nation's largest discount realtors, Big Lots, has agreed to enact our proposal. And we are continuing to wage this battle company by company, whatever it takes to protect our retirees and open up corporate boardrooms. We've been just as vigilant in demanding better performance from technology consultants who do business with the city. I knew coming into office that IT contracts had been running off the rails for years. Comptroller John Liu exposed that when he called out the city time boondoggle. So for the first time in 9 years, our office issued a binding controller's directive to root out waste and fraud. Now, that directive says something very simple. You need to document the hours you've worked before you get paid. Now, I know this is a radical notion in government. Somebody gets paid only after they've given us a record of the work they've done. I know it's ridiculous, but that's never been required by the city. So we changed that. And by putting in new controls at the front end of the process, we've sent a strong message. If you can't account for your work, you're not getting paid by the controller of the city of New York, period. We're also looking to find real savings in the cost of legal judgments against the city, now $732 million a year. That was triple what it was in 1995. So let me put this in perspective. $732 million is more than we spend on the Parks Department, the Department for the Aging, and Consumer Affairs combined. Yet for years, the city has accepted these soaring expenses as the cost of doing business. This is an insult to our taxpayers. So in response, my office launched ClaimStat. It tells us where claims are coming from in real time in every borough, just like CompStat did for crime in the NYPD. So if Rikers is suddenly seeing an uptick in violent incidents, or malpractice claims are spiking at one of our hospitals, or there's a neighborhood in Queens, Melinda, where sewers keep overflowing, we can do something about it. We can make the changes needed to prevent the problems that lead to claims. And let me tell you, commissioners are taking note because they know that claims are often a leading indicator of challenges within their agency. Commissioner Bratton gets this. This morning, I am proud to announce that we have launched the first ever real-time data sharing agreement with the NYPD. The department now gets claims data from our office through a dedicated portal. And we're holding weekly conference calls between frontline attorneys at both agencies. Where once there were silos, there is now collaboration. Where once there were reams of buried data, there is now a cutting-edge tool for reform. And by working together, we are identifying hotspots before they become crises. Because nothing is more important than keeping our city safe. Thank you. It's a lesson we learned the hard way this year, when 4 times our city buried police officers killed in the line of duty. They were heroes who died protecting us. And there is no way we can make up for this loss. But what we can do is live up to the principles and ideals these officers stood for. They believed in our city and they made the ultimate sacrifice. Now it's our duty to be worthy of them We can start by honoring the great promise New York has always represented. For generations, we have been the port of possibilities. You can come here from anywhere and be a New Yorker. You can pursue the hopes and dreams that have inspired so many before you and build a better life. It's a tale told by millions in every language on earth. It's the real-life story of a young girl who grew up in Baruch houses on the Lower East Side of the 1960s, the daughter of immigrants. She would go on to NYU and then a coveted internship at Xerox. And in 2009, Ursula Burns became Xerox's CEO, the first African-American woman to run a Fortune 500 company. Forbes magazine just named her the 22nd most powerful woman in the world. She's traveled an amazing path, and it began just down the road at Baruch houses. Now that's the bright, shining promise, the opportunity that New York City has always offered to the world. That's why the work we do matters so much. For me, as the city's chief fiscal officer, it means pushing government to do better. And it means looking not just at next year's budget, but years down the road to ensure New York's long-term economic health. We can start by raising our city's minimum wage. And I hope to be in Albany someday, depending on snow, to make the case. But let me be clear. While raising the wage is essential, we cannot stop there, because our dreams for our children and our city are much more ambitious. And let's face it, our economy has changed. It's changed dramatically over the last few decades. Thousands of jobs that used to be a ticket to the middle class, the typists, the telephone operators, the factory workers of yesterday have all but disappeared. What's replacing them is a new high-tech economy that's remaking our city and so many other cities around the world. It used to be that people climbing the ladder had their eyes on the big corner office. Now, I know a lot of you in this room have big corner offices. I've been there. But today, the symbol of success is changing. It's now running your own startup with a group of young people gathered around a table with laptops. They're dreaming up the next big idea, the next big wave that will transform our lives. And the economy they're building is creating good entry-level jobs. The coders, the programmers that pay $70,000 a year, enough for a family to start climbing the ladder to the middle class. But business owners tell me all the time that our kids out of our schools too often lack the skills to fill these jobs. That's incredibly outrageous to me. We are failing our kids. We are undermining their shot at a decent future as well as the city's economic vitality. And that's why I was shocked when our audit of the Department of Education found thousands of new iPads and laptops were either missing or stuffed in school closets. Unused, unopened, forgotten. Now think about that for a second. For every iPad left in a closet, that's one more child who won't be able to compete in a 21st century economy. One more child who is not getting the future she deserves. So we're not letting DOE off the hook. We're going to make sure they fix their inventory system, and then we're going one step further. I'm sending our auditors back into the schools this year to make sure when the DOE finally does unwrap those computers, there's a high-speed internet connection at every school. Since 2010, we dedicated $780 million to upgrade broadband in our schools and libraries. If students and our incredible teachers are getting the bandwidth they need, teachers having the absolute tools in the classroom, if that's happening, that's great, I'll say it. If not, then we need to fix it. Because without a high-speed connection, a computer is just an expensive paperweight, and that's just a waste. In the same way, arts instruction must be a part of every child's education. That's right. It teaches creativity and problem-solving skills that kids need in today's job market. Now, that's why I was so alarmed when my office this year revealed that 28% of our schools have no full-time arts teacher, not one. And most of these schools were in our poorest neighborhoods, in Bed-Stuy, Bushwick, and the South Bronx. So we got to work. We released our report. And then the Speaker of the City Council and the Council put $23 million in the budget. We met with Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Farina, and they got it right away. The mayor said, we've got to put more arts teachers in the schools, and he did it. And today, there are new arts teachers in classrooms all over the city. Thank you, Mayor, Chancellor, and New York City Council. All of these initiatives framed our first year, but we're not stopping there. For too long, our pension funds have paid millions of dollars to Wall Street managers without demanding sufficient value for taxpayers and retirees in return. And that must change. Working with the trustees of our pension funds, we will strengthen our system to make it more efficient. And we're going to demand better alignment of interests so that investment managers benefit when our retirees and taxpayers do as well, nothing less. For too long, we've accepted the idea that bureaucratic red tape will inevitably tie up businesses. We've created a nightmare of regulations that frustrate business owners, discourage innovation, and block efficiency. We're going to change that. This year, I'll convene a red tape commission made up of small business owners and regulatory experts. And I'm proud to announce this morning that the co-chairs will be Jessica Lappin, president of the Downtown Alliance, right here, and Michael Lampert with the New York City and Bed-Stuy Bid Associations. Give it up for Michael as well. Together, we'll break down roadblocks and help New Yorkers, whether it's a bodega owner frustrated over permits she needs, a homeowner trying to rebuild after Sandy, or the head of a new startup who can't afford an expediter. Government must be a partner, not an obstacle to achieving their version of the American dream. Each year, the Comptroller's Office issues scores of audits, and they show commissioners how they can operate more efficiently. But over the time, let's face it, agencies say, thank you, Mr. Comptroller, but we're going to do it our way. So we're not going to necessarily implement what you recommend, but we'll tell you we will. It's been going on for a long time. Well, we're going to make it a little harder. We're going to keep the pressure on. We're going to find savings, we're going to fix broken systems, and we're going to break down the bureaucracy. And that's why this year I'm creating a new unit, the Comptroller's Audit Assessment Team. So after an audit is completed, this new unit will go back to agencies and make sure that our most important recommendations, the ones they've agreed to, are being implemented. Now, our auditors are the eyes and ears of our taxpayers, and we're going to hold agencies accountable. Stay tuned. It's all about elevating and reimagining the office to do people's work. Now, one of the most profound ways we're doing this involves certain claims against the city and the Comptroller's Office authority to settle them before they go to trial. We do this to protect taxpayers and in the interest of justice. The Charter gives us this authority, and we've taken it very seriously. Some of these cases have involved wrongfully convicted individuals or people who died while in custody of the Department of Correction. People like Jerome Murdo, a Marine Corps veteran. He was arrested for trespassing last February. He was seeking shelter from the cold. Unable to make bail, Murdo was held at Rikers for 8 days until he was found dead in his 104-degree cell. His mother later found out about her son's death not from a city official, but from a reporter who called her 1 month later. Now, imagine being a parent, that mother, and learning from a stranger that your son had died alone in a prison cell. That's a case we chose to settle in the interest of taxpayers and because it was the right thing to do. Of course, no amount of money and no words can fill a void like that in a mother's heart. For Mrs. Murdo, like millions of parents, her son represented her hopes and dreams for the future. And that's true for all of us. It's the reason we care so deeply about this city. It's not for ourselves. It's for the next generation. And it doesn't matter whether you have kids or not, whether you're a grandparent or a foster parent. We want the city to be a city of opportunity for all of our children. And we all care passionately about this, whether we live in Parkside houses or Park Slope. You know, almost every night, I hate to admit this, but almost every night around 3 a.m., one of my 2 little boys wakes up, and my wife pushes me out of bed and says, "Go deal with this." And I sort of take all my negotiating skills I've known dealing with all of you over the years to try to put one of them to sleep. And it's actually a very special time for me personally, because that's when it's quiet. When I get them back to sleep, I can look in their eyes, hear them breathe, and look at this little boy and say, what can I do to make your life better? You know, you're going to be healthy. Will you have a good education? What can Elise and I do to get our babies where they must be? It is a moment that I cherish, but it's a moment that parents are having in homes all over the city every night in every neighborhood, putting their own children to sleep. Because we may be limited in what we can personally achieve, but we're never limited in what we think our children can be. And that's what drives our urgency, so our kids can have a better world. At the end of the day, we need a new math for this city. The old math was about division and inequality. The new math has to be about multiplication and opportunity. It's a very simple formula. What we have times what we dream equals what we can be. Never forget, dreams and opportunity are the bedrock of this city. That shining hope for a better future has brought people here from around the globe, and we're going to keep that bright light burning. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rattle the bureaucracy, demand value and performance, and by reaching higher for our city than we ever have before, we are going to make a difference for all New Yorkers. Now, it's up to us, everyone in this room. That's what ABNY is about, making sure that we deliver that opportunity for all of our people. That's our challenge, and it's a challenge I know we will meet. Thank you for this honor of being here today. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'll never doubt you.